Assalamu alaikum. And we've reached the end of Ramadan. I think, there's a certain sense of satisfaction and accomplishment, but a sadness in saying goodbye to the month of peace and mercy, to a month of self reflection, and a month of really taking the time to sit back and reflect and think on everything that makes us who we are, on what we express and want to put out there into the world, how we want to be remembered in a time when the globe is exploding around us. But I still have a feeling that there's justice through all of that. Justice will be formed because we believe and have complete trust in the Almighty's will. And may we be a part of being on the right side of history. Speaking of the right side of history, I think that writing that brings about um, a sense of justice, a sense of giving voice, the bravery and courage it takes to write stories from within walls of silence, is another way of being on the right side of history. And with today's guest, we have Farah-Dinah Ismail on the show, who has recently edited and compiled a collection of stories written by women in the community called Beyond Her Silence. It was just recently released, and I had the pleasure of reading it recently with great privilege and respect, because the courage it takes to write from deep within the struggle can never be underestimated. So for now, Assalamu alaikum, Farah-Dinah. Lovely to have you again on the show. It's been a while. The last, I think, we spoke about some of your own writings, but it's such a wonderful thing that you've done here to put together the stories of women who might not have had the platform. And so Mubarak on that, and welcome to Book Bites.
Walaikum salam. So lovely to see you again, Shafinaaz. I mean, it's been, yes, years, I think, since I published my own little book, and we chatted on your show. So, yeah, it's lovely to be here. And an amazing book. I'm so proud of it and so in awe of all the writers that contributed to it.
Let's quickly go back down history. Tell us about the book that you had written, your own writings, and how that informed your process to get to encouraging other writers.
The book I started with was Soulful Sentiments. That was published in just before COVID, actually, 2020. And yeah, it was a whole load of inspirational messages. I'm halfway through the second edition at the moment, so that inshallah will be the next one out. But this book, I've always wanted to do a book of women's stories. I think women have so many stories to tell. And being an avid listener, I listen to a lot of stories. I listen to people telling me their stories. And I thought, how amazing would it be if we could put it into a book and in turn help other women that are going through something similar. I think it's a book that needed to come out. Inshallah, it's one of many editions as well. And I think since we've had the book launch, we've been approached by a few women who would love to contribute to the next book. So very exciting times ahead.
I find it, often women have stories, narratives that they even find difficult to talk about. So to get to the stage of actually writing that story out, to be encouraged enough to write, even firstly for your own self, when you're dealing with something, can be sort of cathartic, can be a way of releasing some of the trauma. Let's speak about some of that, right? About writing trauma through story, but also getting writers to the point where they can actually share that in the public space.
Yes, yeah. I'm a firm believer in writing a story being therapeutic. It's happened for me. I mean, I started with my first book, which is really my life story. I haven't quite finished it because there's so many other projects coming up, but it heals. And I think every time I've reread things that I've written, I've had a good cry, and it sort of chips away at that what you hold on to, and I think it heals you a little bit more every time. I think the same for the writers who have written for this book. It's been a long process, I think about over a year and a half. A lot of me being a little bit of a nag and reminding them to write and put it down on paper and get it to me, and helping them along the way. But a lot of the women have said that just seeing it published in the book has been so healing in itself, that they've cried throughout, and yeah, it just made such a difference to them. So I'm so pleased that they did eventually get down to doing it, and they can see it published.
Let's talk about some of the themes, right? Because there's such powerful themes that come through. And undoubtedly, when we write about women and when women write about women, there are some really strong themes that come through in terms of resilience, how women survive through different challenges that are placed before them. And in these cases, I mean, there's abuse, there's issues of body shaming and sort of body dysmorphia as well, and issues of consent and how women engage being in society and having that ability to decide and choose for themselves. So many themes throughout these stories. Let's talk about how women arrive at these challenges, deal and survive through them, and whether they can rely on each other as a form of support.
I definitely think women can rely on each other. You know, a lot of these women who have written for this book have got, you know, people with them, behind them, you know, on the side of them, in front of them. Women do support women, and I think it's been such an amazing process for them and their families. You know, I mean, look, I think in this book there's a lot of anonymous stories, women who don't want to put their name to the story for various reasons. But I think having spoken to them each individually, they've had such amazing support. And I've been, you know, in awe of all of them and so supportive of their stories. I didn't want this book to be only centered around a certain theme, a certain topic. So that's why there's such a variety of stories. But yeah, I think it's an amazing book, and I think there is a story in there for everyone to dwell on, to learn from, to heal from, to see what somebody else has gone through. And yes, a lot of resilience. These women are so courageous and very brave to come forward. It does take a lot to say, well, to not only to have your story written, but to tell it to somebody else. You know, you've got to be in a safe space. You have to be able to trust that person, and being able to put it on paper and then see it in a book. Yeah, I think there's no feeling like that.
No, definitely. I mean, I think creating the platform, encouraging these women to have written the stories is already something so great that you've done. And then to say, as you said, that people come up to you at the launches and say, this is actually in print, is the next level of healing, is the next level of empowerment, that somebody is actually listening to me. Whatever struggle they might have gone through, you're basically saying to them, your story is important. And I think you say that in the let me read this. In the author's note, Beyond Her Silence was born from the voices of women who have lived through loss, love, and transformation. These are not imagined stories, but lived truths, each one a reflection of courage, endurance, and faith. Through sharing these journeys, may we learn that silence is not the absence of strength, but often where it quietly grows. May their stories remind you that your own voice matters too. I found that so profoundly beautiful, because this is exactly what you've accomplished in the small but powerful collection.
It's so
Let's
real,
talk
I
about
think. It becomes real, you know?
absolutely. Let's talk about some of the examples. Like, just give us a taste of one or two of the stories and what the process was like.
I think just the very first story, you know, the person who wrote who wrote this story was probably the first person that I contacted, who came through a recommendation of a friend. But her story is so powerful, of going through what she did. You know, not only having to go through a journey of losing her husband through cancer, but her father passed away as well at the same time, and she remarried. But just that whole journey, I mean, the strength and the courage that it took to go through that whole process. And that just sets the tone, I think, for the book. I think it was a good story to begin with. I think it's a story that grabs your attention and gets you sucked in. I've had so many people contacting me saying they want to hear more on each story. You know, they wish the story had gone on longer. We would have ended up with quite a thick book, though, I think. But they said they're so engrossed in what is going on that they needed the story to continue. So yeah, I think I think that is amazing. That says a lot for these women who have mainly written these stories by themselves. I've helped with editing, I've helped with rewriting certain paragraphs, but the words are their own, and I think that is an amazing feat on itself, because not everyone, as you know, is a writer. Not everyone can put pen to paper and come across with a good story.
And I think especially because you've given them this kind of courage to write, it makes all that difference. Because as you say, sometimes writing can be an intimidating process. We can talk, we can tell our stories, and sometimes it all can't come down in the form of words, right? It takes a lot to get there, and I definitely appreciate that process. It also gives me the impression that some of these stories are written after they've overcome the challenge. Are there any stories that you feel they've started writing while they were going through their struggle?
I think it was the one about the chronic illness. I think that's an ongoing story. I think that's something that the writer is continuing with. I think there were a couple that were still in the process, or we've put notes at the end to say what has happened since the story has been written. But yes, a lot of them, people have overcome them. And that was the whole emphasis on the actual cover of the book. I was very sort of explicit in what I wanted. I wanted it to be women having hurdled, all the trials and adversities and things that they've gone through, coming over the mountaintop and now literally going down the mountain to a beautiful sunrise and a new beginning, and where things look brighter and better. So that was the whole analogy behind the cover as well.
And what also stood out for me, Farah-Dinah, is that most of the women rely on their iman and a strong sense of faith that comes through their challenges. Let's talk a little bit about the spirituality as we come through challenges.
Yes, yeah. This book started off, it wasn't solely exclusive to Muslim women. We started off with about 20 writers, and slowly, a few pulled out. Their stories weren't ready, or they weren't ready to tell the story or ready to have it published. These were some of the women that were still in the midst of the struggles and what they were going through. So they didn't really feel that they wanted to contribute at this stage. I'm hoping that they will at a later stage. Yes, but the spirituality, the strength, the faith, the reliance on Allah, it's plays such an important part. Even, I look back even on my story, and eventually, inshallah, when it comes out, you'll probably see that. But yes, you have to draw on something, and your faith is there. If you are at that stage where you can rely on it, you find the peace, you find the contentment, the closeness to Allah. And these women have, and that is what has seen them through, a lot of what they have been through. And I think that's pretty amazing. It really is.
I think for anyone reading these stories rather, it's important to be able to pick up on those themes that give you hope, because as much as there's the tensions, the challenges, all of that, you definitely see these sparks of hope, the silver lining that we look for, that there's a way through this. Was that part of the intention?
Yes, I wanted there to be, like on each story, if you've read through it, you'll see at the end of each story there is a little foreword, and I encourage the writers to jot down a few lines just to give a little bit of advice to somebody who's going through something similar, what their advice would be for them to do, or ways that they can get past this or cope with it. And it was definitely the theme of it. And it also, I think, ties in with my soulful sentiments, because a lot of what I write about, even weekly in my Jummah messages, are about hope, about courage, about inspiration, about positivity. And I wanted that to shine through as well, that like you say, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. When you're in the midst of it, you don't think you're going to get there. We never think that the light is anywhere near us, but it is there. And I think with your faith, your courage, your hope, you definitely will achieve it. Yeah.
We're going to go for an ad break, but we're definitely coming back to get more about these stories and how we can encourage more of this writing out in the community, inshallah.
Rand, a monthly food hamper for 1,900 Rand, or feed a community for 20,000 Rand per day. From Gaza to Mozambique to Syria and more, every meal creates a connection between human hearts and the divine. This Ramadan, nourish bodies and reconnect souls with Africa Muslims Agency.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum. We are back on BookBytes speaking to Farah-Dinah Ismail about a very, very interesting collection of stories. Beyond Her Silence captures the narrative of a number of courageous and brave women who have written their stories, their lived experiences. And this book is lauded as stories of strength, struggle, joy, and an unbreakable spirit. It definitely comes through in the themes and the kind of narrative that is related through these stories. It brings together these voices that might not have had the platform. And we often talk about what it means to go beyond silence. Often our challenges are just taken as a way to survive, and silence seems to be the vehicle through which we live through life. But what happens at that moment when you reach breaking point, when you need to be able to share that story, heal through that story, carry yourself through that story. And life provides those opportunities for us to join hands. Raw, honest, and profoundly moving, this book is a celebration of resilience and a reminder that there's strength in vulnerability and unity in that shared strength. And I'm taking that directly from the blurb. So, Farah-Dinah, welcome back. We spoke about some of the challenges. We spoke about some of um, the motivation to write these stories, to get them out there, to share them, and the relatability of these stories. Let's talk about one story in particular that stood out for me, in a sea of so many powerful narratives. There's a woman who is experiencing abuse. She's very sort of she's in love. She's excited about her marriage. She has the best intentions, as everyone does when they get into a marriage. But this marriage breaks down and falls apart, and she keeps going back. She keeps going back to try to make this work. Let's talk about abuse and the cycle of abuse and how it keeps the abused victim trapped, the survivor trapped in the situation.
Yeah, this was a very powerful story. I think Fatima has put her name to her story. I had many a conversation with her, and it just broke my heart, what she had been through, what she had to go through, what she still has to go through, because I don't think it ends, when you eventually leave, when you do find the courage to leave. And it's hard in the process, I think. We all think it's so easy to up and leave and get out of the cycle of abuse, but it isn't. You are drawn there, you have children with your abuser. It is a very difficult situation to get out of. And only you can make that decision. Everybody can give you advice, everybody can tell you what to do. But at the end of the day, it's got to be your decision. But it was very heartbreaking. And I think a lot of readers have resonated with this particular story. A lot of women are going through it. I mentioned when we had our book launch that, for a long time, women have had to silence their stories to keep them in, to protect, well, not really protect, but to think about the abuser, to think about somebody else, to not say it. People will tell you not to tell your story, not to say anything, to keep quiet. Women have been hushed and silenced along the generations. And I think that is changing now. And I think it's a good thing that women can tell their stories. And whether it's anonymous, whether it's a pseudonym, whether it's your own name, I think it's important to be able to talk and to be able to tell your story.
And we speak about how these stories resonate for someone who might not have the opportunity yet to talk or to write their story. So I think the power is also in that shared narrative, which is exactly what you've managed to accomplish here. Let's talk about some of that feedback that you might get when a collection of this sort is out there. What kind of feedback are you getting? You said that you've already been approached by more people wanting to write. Talk to us about some of that.
Yes, there's been quite a few women have come forward or through people and said that they would like to contribute to the next book. And it's also something that I mentioned at the book launch, that sometimes we're scared. We are scared as women to tell our stories. And I think it just helps that somebody else speaks first. When somebody else speaks first, another woman comes forward, it gives you that little bit of courage. So that is a good thing. Like, I think the next book will be equally as powerful as this one. And I look forward to compiling it. And the feedback that we've had, women have said that they can't put the book down. They resonate with particular stories. They've been through something similar. Women need to hear stories. I think it was last year? I think I collaborated with Muslim friends, and we had a little get together for women to tell their stories, and a few select women did come up and tell their stories. But it was such a nice event because there was a little Q&A afterwards, women giving advice, women asking different questions. And it shows me that this is something that is needed in our community, where women can get together, where there's no judgment. Nobody's going to tell you, don't say whatever, don't tell your story, don't say it in full, don't say these parts, think about the next person. You don't have to think about anyone. You need to think about yourself. And if it helps you to be able to talk about it, I think that's a very powerful thing. And inshallah, I want to start this probably in the next month or two, start having a few get-togethers and let women tell their stories. It can be in an informal setting, where we all get together and we share our narratives. And, you don't know what kind of advice we can get or who says what that will help along the way. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Absolutely. I think you're speaking about a kind of a healing circle, and in many ways, even the book accomplishes that, because this book will then reach readers who you might not be able to invite into your physical healing circle, and here you have it in the form of a book. And I mean, going back to that story, there's a point where she says, he's the father of my child. There's that mindfulness, there's that almost that responsibility that we feel in our relationships. And then there's one of the other stories where there's this, and I want to shout out to our brothers out there who are carrying the weight of their family, who are wonderfully supportive. There's another story where she acknowledges a wonderful husband who does so much, but she's losing control of her body. And as women, as middle-aged women, we all understand how either illness or hormones or menopause or perimenopause or through, we have various challenges, and that writing about that takes just as much courage, even with a supportive partner. Let's talk about some of that. When women feel that they're losing control over what they thought they would have lost control over, the mental and physical stress that comes with that.
Yes, it definitely takes its toll. Women carry so much as well. I think we carry so many things on our shoulders. Our families, our work, our spouses. There's just so much to carry. So I definitely think that a lot of these stories will help in the healing process and will show women that it's okay. We don't have to be superwomen. We don't have to be the ones that do everything. As you mentioned in the one story, I think it was the chronic illness one, where the husband did carry the weight of it. And alhamdulillah, there's a lot, like you say, a lot of good men out there that are helping the wives. They're not the traditional husband-wife narrative that has come down through the generations. I think definitely, and I see it in my kids as well, my daughters, that the husbands are different. And I think that's such a good thing. It's such a powerful thing. But I think women need to be able to let go and not have to carry everybody's weight on their shoulders, because that's what we've always done, I think. And I think it's good to let it go.
I think it's extremely important and inspiring.
Your true home away from home. Al Bayt is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists, with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that Al Bayt has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaytlodge.co.za.
It's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education, from books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Use the black seed, for indeed it is a cure for every disease except death." This Ramadan, honor that guidance. Tip Black Seed supports your blood sugar during fasting, boosts immunity, sustains your energy from suhoor to iftar. Available at leading pharmacies. Tip Black Seed, your golden drop every day.
Elite Basmati, available throughout the Middle East, and now for the very first time exclusive to South Africa. Brought to you by Murchison Spice, Pietermaritzburg's most famous specialty store. Elite Basmati, available in aromatic white and golden cellar, is packaged in a world-class facility in India and is filled with wholesome goodness for your well-being. Elite Basmati rice by Murchison Spice. For trade inquiries, contact Mohammed on 033 387 2121. Murchison Spice.
Across Sudan, starvation is tightening its grip. With rising food prices and widespread malnutrition, 8.7 million people are now facing emergency or famine-level hunger. As the conflict intensifies and aid routes narrow, families in Sudan are running out of options and time. The Al Imdad Foundation is delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those most at risk. Stand with Sudan. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum. We had a slight connectivity issue, but we're back. We're speaking to Farah-Dinah Ismail about the anthology Beyond the Silence, which is capturing powerful stories of lived experience of women in the communities who are going through various challenges or have overcome them. And it's a greatly inspiring collection that will relate, educate, entertain, and in some ways, I think the relatability is what's really important here, because this is what story does, right? It builds bridges of empathy between us. And in this collection, this is definitely accomplished. Farah-Dinah, we spoke earlier about the various themes, the challenges, supportive versus abusive partners, and I think a lot of that comes through in the story. Where can we get copies of this book?
The book is available on my website, www.thedinajournal.com. It's also stocked at exclusive books in Hyde Park, at Pearls of Paradise in Emmarentia, and is on Amazon and Draft to Digital.
And if anyone wanted to contact you, especially for your next submission period for the next anthology, or you're probably busy with that one and you've got a new call for submissions, how do people get hold of you? And if you have your healing circles, I assume they're going to be in Gauteng to begin with.
Yes,
tell us.
Once we've finalized, we're quite keen on using the same venue that we used for the book launch. It's quite a lovely, calming venue. So I will advertise on social media, and my social media page is the Dina Journal, and I'll advertise on there and get it out there. But you can contact me directly either through the website. My phone number and everything is on the website, and I can leave it with Salam Media as well. So yeah, I look forward to hearing from you.
Inshallah, I think that you've definitely taken women and writers beyond the silence. It's a very, very big accomplishment to have made. And so we congratulate you from BookBytes. And thank you also for sharing your time with us, for sharing your story, your journey, your process, and more especially your intention, because I think being intentional about a healing circle is exactly what authenticates it. It makes it something that creates an energy for people to want to join, to want to heal. And there'll be barakah for you in all the good that you do, inshallah. So we wish you everything of the best with your intentional approach and your journey of writing and creating platforms for others who want to write.
Jazakallah so much, and Jazakallah so much for having me. It was so lovely to see you again.
We look forward to hearing more about your own writing and further compilations that you put together. And that's it from us. And also make the most of what's left of Ramadan so that we can all glean the benefits and keep us in your prayers as well.
Ameen, Ameen. I will do. Jazakallah.
And so there you have it. We heard from Farah-Dinah Ismail about Beyond the Silence. She will be putting together further anthologies. So get in touch with her if you want to write your story. Write your story anyway, because I think there's power and courage and joy and healing in writing. That's it from us on BookBytes this weekend. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.